Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Heritage Layout process video. So for this week, I have a photo here. This is of my grandmother. I don't know if I mentioned this, but my great-grandfather was a photographer back in the 1930s. So I have some really cute kind of posed photos of my grandmother that I can use. So we're going to use one of those today. I've chosen for products some elements from Maggie Holmes' Flourish collection. I was inspired by this piece of paper. I just think it's perfect and I love it. And then I chose some sequins, some embellishments from Scrap and Happy Studio that has little vintage babies on it. Super cute. Really like those. And then I have kind of some white cardstock and then just a collection of embellishments. This sequin mix from Spiegelmom Scraps is called a Pink Poison. And we're going to use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take these sequins and I'm going to add sequined details to some of these die cuts, including this wooden frame. So I'm probably going to start my layout with that by adding the sequin details to some of these die cuts. And then I have a pretty definite idea of where I'm going to go design wise. My plan is to cut along this line right here and then have the bottom be white and filled in with all of these die cuts and then have the top with the pattern and my photo in the middle. That's my working plan right now. It could change, but that's my working theory, what I really would like to do. I wanted to use all of the pretty rose gold accents that are in this collection. So when I pulled things together, I only pulled the things that had those kind of rose gold foil accents. And so let's get started and we'll see how far we get and what we come up with. So I'm going to go ahead and start by adding sequin details to all of these die cuts. Now, I actually don't end up using all these die cuts on the page, but I do use quite a few of them. And the ones that didn't, I just will use the sequins, kept the sequin details on because I glued them on and they will definitely work for another layout another day. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at these die cuts is I'm looking to add sequins to the centers of flowers. I'm looking to add sequins on that bunny. I'm going to cluster some on the top and some on the bottom. I'm just going to accent a few sequins on the rows. And then those vellum and wood pieces, I'm going to add just some sequin details too. So someone asked me about my crystal katana, which is this jewel picker that I use. You can find these at Hobby Lobby in the jewelry making section. You can get them on Amazon and they ship Prime. You can also find them at stores like Simon Says Stamp. If you're a sequin crazy girl like me, then this is the jewel picker for you. There's another one called Marvi Uchida, which I did have, but it got goopy really quick. And once it got goopy, you couldn't get it clean and it stopped holding my sequins. The nice thing about this one is it's made super sturdy. It has a pick on the other end of it, so you can actually like turn it over and use the pick side to kind of move your sequins around. And that tip, the waxy tip, is replaceable. So you can replace the tip if it does get goopy. But it also wipes up super easily, and I have not had it get goopy on me yet, and I've had mine for quite a while. So that's the info on my crystal katana. There are lots of card makers that use them, but I only know of one other scrapbooker that uses them, and that would be Brianna Leeper. But they are quite lovely. They are kind of like the Cadillac of jewel pickers, though, because they're not super cheap. They're not horribly expensive, but they run about $14, $15. Okay, so now these are the last couple of sequins I'm going to add to my die cuts. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you each of these die cuts so you can really see the sequin details that I added to them nice and close. I moved them around, and then when I sped them up, I'm like, oh, well, it looks kind of weird, but I hope you can see the little sequin details, okay? When I was shooting it, I was moving around so that the light would catch them, not really thinking about the fact that I was going to speed the video up and it might look a little weird. But, yep. So there are all of the little sequin details I added, and now let's get into the layout. So I have the paper here that I said I was going to use. And what I decided to do, I'm going to change my main idea for the layout a little bit differently. I have a small triangle of that beautiful pattern up at the top, and then I used one of the offcuts to flip the paper over. The other side of the paper has that really pretty pinky red color, that really dark one, and so I decided I really wanted to use that to just give my photo a little bit more of a matte. And then I'm going to take another triangle and I'm going to put it down at the bottom. It's a little bit of a smaller triangle, and that gives me that middle part to put and layer all of the different die cuts that I have in the middle of that. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere down the 2 triangle papers, and then you can see I've pulled one of my washi rings out. And I want to use that rose gold washi tape, which is a Maggie Holmes washi tape. I don't think it's from this collection. I think it was from a different collection. But it's that same rose gold. And I'm going to use it to trim off the edges of those triangles. Sorry, guys. My Dachshund Puppy Fitz has decided that he needed some attention. So, yeah. He's such a whiner. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add that washi, and I'm going to put down my photograph, and then we'll start figuring out the embellishments for this layout. Okay, so now I'm going to try to work with these die cuts. I'm just going to go ahead and start to layer them up and figure out where I can put them. Now, what I didn't really think about very much when I started adding sequins to them is the fact that they're big. They're gigantic die cut pieces. But I'm going to layer them up, and I know that I have that entire kind of center area to work with. And I actually end up getting quite a few of them in a pattern that I really do like. So I'm just going to move everything around here till it's a way that I like. I'm going to cut a few up, and that allows me to kind of butt them up against that washi tape border and give the illusion that they're kind of spread around a little bit more. So I'm just going to continue on here, moving them around and trimming them up, deciding where I want them to go. So what I decided to do is I find this little piece of this kind of peachy paper, and I'm going to stretch it across the bottom here. I'm going to cut the end as a fishtail, and I'm going to end up putting that rose down there at the bottom. And then the way that you see all the die gets placed now is pretty much the way they're going to stay. I'm going to use my T-scale ruler so that this really does look like it is one piece of paper instead of 2 teeny tiny little scraps. And I'm going to pop up my rose so that it has some dimension there. And then I'm going to go ahead and move stuff around. I think I was worried that you couldn't see the layout because sometimes as I'm working, I pull my glass mat down closer to me, and then it's out of then the bottom of my page ends up out of the camera. So I'm still working with that a little bit. I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to glue down all these little pieces. I love the deer and the bunny, and I really, really am glad that I was able to get those 2 pieces on this layout. I didn't end up using the wood frame. It just was a little bit too big and bulky, and it needed to have like a pride of place kind of. It couldn't be just kind of layered in with other things. So I decided that I would go ahead and save that one for another layout. So now that I have all the big elements in my clusters, I want to kind of pull the clusters together a little bit more, and I'm going to do that starting with, I've added a few stickers in and around the deer. I've pulled another couple of stickers out just small or kind of medium stickers. And then I have these little epoxy flares from Scrap and Happy Studio. And I wanted to make sure I got quite a few of these in there. I actually end up putting all 6 of them on this layout. They were gorgeous kind of cohesive element, something that I could do in all the different clusters all the way down that middle piece, and your eye can kind of follow them around and follow them around through all the different clusters to see all the different details. I don't end up using those last 2 stickers that are in my book, but I do use that little one around the bunny. And then I pulled out the layered chipboard because I have a very much kind of like a wilderness thing going on here. We have a bunny, we have a deer, there's a hummingbird down by the flower below. And so I thought that I could add some of these layered butterflies to different areas of the layout. And so you can see here, I'm just taking these epoxy flare. You just add some tape runner to the back to adhere them. Don't use wet glue, because if you use wet glue, they will melt. Don't ask me how I know that. Trust me on this. It actually says on the packaging, and the first time I ever used them, I ignored that. So yeah, don't use wet glue. You can use Pop Dots, or I just use just my tape runner. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add these 2 butterflies. I felt like the third one was just a bit too dark for the layout, but I wanted a little bit more dimension and just a little bit more color. And I thought about this flower, but that flower was just too much. It was too much. Right? It's too much. It doesn't look that bad right now necessarily, but when I was doing the layout, I'm like, oh my, I have so much stuff going on this page. I'm so glad my photo is black and white and nice and 4x6. So I am pulling out these beautiful rose gold chipboard thickers that I apparently haven't used yet, which is interesting. And I'm going to put my title down, and the title is going to be Sweet Girl. And initially, these felt really sticky, and I thought, oh, I would be good and I wouldn't need to add extra glue to them. But, you know, by the next morning, they were falling off, so we had to add extra glue anyway. And then below my title, I went ahead and added the date that these pictures were taken, which was 1931. This photo was taken. Next, I thought that I wanted to sprinkle sequins all down the middle of there, but I decided it was too busy. So I'm going to move them around quite a bit here, and I'm going to kind of cluster them up and get them a little more organized. I decided that having them kind of just scattered didn't look right. It didn't kind of go with my vision of this layout. It made it look busy. Your eye kind of can't figure out where to go next. So I'm going to edit them out, put most of them aside, and then kind of just cluster a couple here and there around the layout. And that's where we're going to end this one. So when you're working with heritage photos, don't be afraid to use something that's a little bit trendy and a little bit new, like sequins on your layout, because they can work fabulously. If you're interested in these sequins, you can pick them up in the Spiegelmom Scraps shop. And you can use my code, Sarah15, for a little bit off your order. And you'll also find below an affiliate link for the shop, which will also, it helps me to keep bringing you this kind of content, like the heritage layouts and things like that. There are some close-ups for you, and yeah, that'll complete this layout. I have some fun heritage things coming for you guys next month as well. 2 more layouts, and I think you'll like what we're going to do. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.